Hello everybody, today we're going to do something a bit different, and after many years of friendship and talking to each other on a weekly basis, Dean, aka HarryPotterFolklore, is going to be a guest narrator for this video, and together we'll go back and forth and cover the topic of this video.
Thank you so much for having me on today, Morgan. I'm really excited to be part of this video, and I'm really honored to be able to feature on the channel today.
We decided to go all out and do a bigger video for this collab because it's been a long time coming, and we want this to be as epic as possible. So Dean, welcome to Movie Flame. It's amazing to have you on board for this video. Tell us what we'll be talking about.
So, for today's video, we're going to track all Voldemort's Horcruxes, who he killed to make them, what object he put it in, why he chose that object, where he hid it, and how that object was found and destroyed. Now, there will be major spoilers for the whole series, so there's your warning. So now that that's out of the way, let's get this video started.
Toward the end of Tom Riddle's time at Hogwarts, he began researching Horcruxes, and he found information in a book that explained to him exactly how to make it. Rowling, however, did not explain to the readers exactly how it's done, making it a mystery and something that the readers could speculate on. Once Voldemort found out how it was done, he went to Professor Slughorn for his thoughts on making 7 Horcruxes, unsure if it was possible. Realizing that it was possible, he began his quest of splitting his soul, and he broke the boundaries of life and death. Early on in his life, he liked to collect prizes or trophies for his wrongdoings, and the same applied to his Horcruxes. He picked objects that had significant value to him, and for most of his Horcruxes, he chose murders that were significant as well. So Dean, tell us about the first Horcrux he made.
The first object he plans to put a Horcrux in was his own journal, and this was probably the least significant object of the 7 Horcruxes he made, and this was actually for a good reason. This Horcrux was less of a protection and more of a weapon. That year, he had opened the Chamber of Secrets, as he was the rightful heir to Salazar Slytherin, one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts, among Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, and Rowena Ravenclaw. Slytherin had built a chamber and placed a beast, more specifically a basilisk, that was ready to rid the school of all Muggleborns, and he planned for his rightful heir to fulfill his task, which is exactly what Tom did. Tom released the beast and ordered it to kill a girl named Myrtle. Because he was the one controlling the beast, speaking Parseltongue to the creature, it counted as him killing her. He used Myrtle's murder to split his soul and put that broken piece of the soul into the diary. This was his first Horcrux, and as I said, it was more of a weapon than for his protection, and he plans to use it to open the Chamber of Secrets again many years after he left, because as of now, he was innocent and had framed another student named Rubeus Hagrid, meaning he couldn't open it again during his time at school. Now I'll let Morgan tell you about the second Horcrux.
The second Horcrux object was the Gaunt Ring. Voldemort spent a lot of time in the library researching his family heritage, and eventually he found his middle name Marvolo, and he discovered his grandfather under the same name, who he was actually named after. During his summer holiday, he went to find Marvolo in the Gaunt house, but he only found his uncle named Morphin Gaunt, and Morphin was wearing the Gaunt Ring. This was the first time that Tom had ever seen it. Morphin told Voldemort about the Muggle boy named Tom Riddle, Voldemort's father, and after finding out that his father abandoned him and his mother, and that he currently lived in a mansion up the way, Voldemort went there to kill his father, and just because, he killed his father's new Muggle family with the Killing Curse. He then went back to Morphin and stole the ring, a prize for the murder of his Muggle father. Voldemort would later go on to use his father's murder to make a second Horcrux, and he put it in the Gaunt Ring. Both the murder of his father and the Gaunt Ring had significant value to him, because his father's murder was revenge for making him grow up in an orphanage, and the ring had value because it was proof that Voldemort had good blood on his mother's side. Now I'll leave it to Dean to explain the third and fourth Horcruxes that Voldemort made.
The third and fourth Horcruxes were found together. After school, Voldemort got a job at Borgin & Burke's, and his job was to use his charm to make people part with their treasures so he could bring it to the shop and then sell it. One person who he visited very often was a woman named Hepzibah Smith. During one visit, she showed Voldemort 2 of her most prized possessions, Helga Hufflepuff's cup and Salazar Slytherin's locket. Each founder had an heirloom, and these were the heirlooms for Hufflepuff and Slytherin. These 2 objects had great value to Voldemort because They both reminded him of the place that he called home, and on top of that, he felt that Slytherin's locket was rightfully his, because not only was he the rightful heir to Slytherin, but Hepzibah also told him how Burke had gotten the locket from a pregnant, desperate woman who Voldemort knew to be his mother. After seeing these objects, Voldemort knew he was going to steal both of them, but he knew that now was not the time. He came back 2 days later, took the locket and the cup, killed Hepzibah, and used her death to make his third Horcrux, putting that broken piece of his soul into Hufflepuff's cup. This is actually interesting because Voldemort used the murder of Hufflepuff's descendant and put it in Hufflepuff's own heirloom. After that, Voldemort disappeared for a decade, and I'll let Morgan explain what he did during those 10 years.
After disappearing, Voldemort continued to find and make Horcruxes, but he also began to hide them. He realized that he had to hurry up and protect them, and because of this, the murder he used to make the Horcrux in Slytherin's locket was sort of meaningless, as he killed a Muggle tramp. He had one more object to find before he began hiding his Horcruxes, and he had discovered the true location of this object many years ago during his time at Hogwarts. He found and charmed the Grey Lady, or Helena Ravenclaw, a ghost at Hogwarts who happened to be the daughter of Rowena Ravenclaw, another one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. Voldemort wanted this object for the same reason he had wanted Hufflepuff's cup and Slytherin's locket. It reminded him of his true home at Hogwarts. Also, being a man so obsessed with getting trophies, it would be the ultimate accomplishment to get all 4 of the 4 founders' heirlooms, and with the diadem, he would have 3 of the 4. After finessing and charming Helena during his time at Hogwarts, he became the first person to ever find out where the lost diadem of Ravenclaw was, which hadn't been seen for centuries. Helena told Voldemort that she had stolen the diadem from her mother and hid it in a hollow tree in an Albanian forest. Now, many years later, Voldemort went to the forest where she had told him it was hidden, and after searching for a while, he finally found it. Again wanting to hide his Horcruxes as soon as possible, the murder he used for this Horcrux had little meaning as well, using an Albanian peasant. Now having 5 Horcruxes made, Voldemort knew that he needed to protect them, and fast. The first hiding spot he chose was sort of weak. He hid the ring in the same place where he had stolen it, in the Gaunt house where he had met his Uncle Morphin. He used magical enchantments to seal it, and he put deadly curses on the ring if someone put it on. For Slytherin's locket, he hid this one the best, most likely due to the fact that it belonged to his idol, Salazar Slytherin, was an heirloom of his own family, and because it had ties to his true home at Hogwarts. The ring was a family heirloom as well, but it didn't have ties to Hogwarts, and it didn't belong to his idol, Salazar Slytherin. Voldemort took the locket to a cave that he had visited while he was at the orphanage, and this cave had deeper meaning for Voldemort because it was where he had tormented 2 other kids from the orphanage, making them disturbed and never the same afterwards. This was also one of the first times he used magic, though he did it unknowingly at the time. He put all sorts of enchantments on the cave, first making the seeker find a hidden piece of rock inside, and when they found it, they would have to give their blood to open it, weakening them from the start. They then had to find a boat that was underwater and ride the boat across a pool of water that was filled with inferi. When they got to an island in the middle, they had to drink poison that showed the drinker their worst fears, and only when they finished it would they be able to get to the locket. The poison would make them extremely thirsty and desperate for water, and the only water they had access to was the water around the island, and as soon as they touched that, they would be attacked by the inferi below. Voldemort went even further with this protection and borrowed Regulus Black's house elf, Regulus being one of his Death Eaters, and he made his house elf creature go through the security to make sure it worked. He then left the house elf there to die, and we will come back to this plot point later, but now I'll let Dean explain what happened when Voldemort came out of his 10 years of hiding.
Voldemort came out of hiding to try and get a job at Hogwarts, the place that we've said a few times in this video was his true home. After Dumbledore refused him the job, however, Voldemort took a detour before leaving. He went to the Room of Requirement, a secret room in the castle that presented itself to you as whatever you needed it to be. What he needed was a place to hide something, and the room opened a place filled with mountains of discarded items that had been hidden over hundreds of years. He perched a diadem deep in the room, down one of the alleyways, and on top of an old statue of a warlock wearing a wig. After hiding 3 of the Horcruxes, he kept the diary and Hufflepuff's cup with him for a few more years, and he eventually decided to entrust 2 of his most loyal followers, Lucius Malfoy and Bellatrix Lestrange. He trusted Malfoy with the less important of the 2 and gave him the diary to hide in his mansion. And as we said, this Horcrux was meant to be more of a weapon than a safeguard. He then gave Bellatrix the cup, and he had her hide it in her family vault in Gringotts, which was one of the most heavily guarded vaults in the bank, being guarded by many obstacles, including a dragon. Now having 5 Horcruxes made and hidden, Voldemort went to kill a baby boy named Harry Potter after hearing a prophecy that connected the destiny of himself and this baby. He thought that by killing this baby, he would finally be invincible, and because this murder was significant, he planned to make a Horcrux out of Harry's death. However, he had not foreseen Harry's mother giving her life to save her son, which in turn gave Harry a protection through the power of love. Because of this protection, Voldemort's killing curse rebounded off Harry and hit him. So 2 things happen here. 1. Because Voldemort had pushed the limits of life and death by splitting his soul so many times, his soul was so unstable that when he was hit with his own killing curse, his soul split without him knowing, and it latched itself onto the only living thing it could find, the baby boy he had tried to kill. This in turn created a 6th Horcrux that Voldemort never knew he made. The second thing that's happened was Voldemort's body was destroyed, and had it not been for his Horcruxes, he would have died right then and there. However, his Horcruxes kept him alive, but just barely. He was just a part of his soul clinging to life. According to Pottermore, Rowling released some new information explaining that Voldemort actually made another temporary Horcrux in Quirinus Quirrell. He found Voldemort in the forest and allowed him to latch onto him, giving him life as they shared a body. Rowling explained this, saying, Quirrell is, in effect, turned into a temporary Horcrux by Voldemort. He is greatly depleted by the physical strain of fighting the far stronger evil soul inside him. When the body Voldemort and Quirrell are sharing is horribly burned by contact with Harry, the former flees just in time to save himself, leaving the damaged and enfeebled Quirrell to collapse and die. So the Horcrux inside of Quirrell was made and destroyed in the same year, and was destroyed by both natural death of the body and, looking deeper, was destroyed by the love protection that Lily gave Harry, because ultimately that's what killed him. So what happened to the rest of Voldemort's Horcruxes during his exile? I'll let Morgan explain that to you.
While Voldemort was in exile, barely alive, Lucius Malfoy thought his master was dead, and he decided to have some fun. All that he had been told about the diary was that it had the capability of reopening the Chamber of Secrets, so Lucius decided to plant the diary on Ginny Weasley while in Diagon Alley. Ginny brought the Horcrux to school, and she talked to the 16-year-old Tom Riddle inside of the Horcrux. As explained by Hermione in the Deathly Hallows, if you become close with the Horcrux, not meaning close as in touching, but close as in emotionally, the part of the soul inside of it is able to go in and out of the diary and possess someone. And that's exactly what happened to Ginny when she poured her heart out to the Horcrux. Because she became so emotionally attached, she made it easy for the piece of the soul to possess her, and Voldemort used her body to reopen the Chamber of Secrets. Ginny's emotional connection to the diary became so strong that the Tom Riddle inside of it was able to use her to get a full body for himself. This plan was stopped by Harry Potter, however, when he stabbed the Horcrux with the Basilisk Fang, Basilisk Venom being one of the few things that's able to destroy a Horcrux. The original Voldemort that was still in exile had no idea that any of this happened, however, at least not yet. The real Voldemort was eventually found by Wormtail, and Wormtail helped him make a temporary body, and while in that body, he made his final Horcrux. He killed a ministry worker named Bertha Jorkins who was brought to him by Wormtail, and when his soul split, he made a Horcrux inside of his snake Nagini. When Voldemort got his full body, he discovered that the diary Horcrux had been destroyed, and he was angry with Lucius for being so careless with the thing that he had entrusted him with. At this point, Voldemort had made 8 Horcruxes: the diary, the gaunt ring, Hufflepuff's cup, Slytherin's locket, the diadem, Harry, which he still didn't know about, Nagini, and the temporary Horcrux inside of Quirrell. And at this point, the diary and the Horcrux inside of Quirrell have been destroyed. Now I'll let Dean tell you about how the other Horcruxes were destroyed and who destroyed them.
Let's first go back to when Voldemort left the house elf Kreacher in the cave to die. After Voldemort had left and Kreacher was about to be overtaken by Inferi, Kreacher's master and the Death Eater that Voldemort had borrowed the elf from, Regulus Black, called Kreacher to him, all because elf magic was different than human magic. Kreacher was able to disapparate out of the cave, which normal human magic would not have been able to do. Regulus had discovered that Voldemort had made a Horcrux, though he thought it was the only one, and he was determined to destroy it, turning his back on his master. Because Kreacher now knew how to get through Voldemort's obstacles, Regulus took Kreacher with him, got through those obstacles, and made it to the locket. He then switched to the real locket with the fake one that had a note to the Dark Lord in it, and as he was being overrun by the Inferi, he ordered Kreacher to leave him and destroy the Horcrux. Regulus died, and Kreacher tried to destroy the Horcrux many times, but he could not do it. He kept the Horcrux with him at number 12 Grimmauld Place, and he would forever punish himself for not being able to destroy it. Many years later, the Order of the Phoenix made Grimmauld Place their headquarters, and while cleaning out the house, Harry, Ron, Hermione, Mrs. Weasley and a few others found the locket and tried to open it, but when they couldn't, they threw it out. Kreacher, seeing this however, picked the locket from the trash and hid it in his cabinet. However, a little over a year later, Mundungus Fletcher cleared the house out and stole many things to sell, including Slytherin's locket. And again we'll come back to this story when it pops up again in the timeline. Eventually, Dumbledore caught on to the fact that Voldemort had made not just one Horcrux, but multiple. How many? He wasn't quite sure yet. Using Voldemort's middle name, Marvolo, he tracked his heritage to the Gaunt family, and he discovered the Gaunt house. There, he got through the protective charms that Voldemort had put around the house, and he found the signet ring. Dumbledore realised something about the stone in the ring, and put together that it was indeed the Resurrection Stone, one of the 3 Deathly Hallows, something that Voldemort had never put together. Dumbledore, being filled with excitement, put the ring on, and the enchantment that Voldemort had put on the ring overtook his hand. Before it spread to his whole body and killed him, however, Severus Snape stopped the spreading and isolated it just to Dumbledore's hand. Even so, the poison from the Horcrux slowly began to kill him, and he was told he only had a year to live. After his injury, Dumbledore destroyed the Horcrux using the Sword of Gryffindor, which only worked because it had absorbed basilisk venom when Harry stabbed a basilisk with it during his 2nd year. So now, 3 of the 8 Horcruxes have been destroyed. It's also quite fitting that the Hogwarts heirloom that Voldemort could not get his hands on was the thing that destroyed his Horcruxes and played a big part in his downfall. Dumbledore later figured out Voldemort's hiding spot in the cave, and not knowing that Regulus had already taken it, he and Harry went to the cave to get it. They took the fake Horcrux thinking it was real, but after finding out it was fake, Harry was back to square one. However, the note inside of the fake Horcrux was signed by R.A.B, and Harry, Ron and Hermione figured out that this stood for Regulus Arcturus Black. While in Grimmauld Place, they found Kreacher, who told them that Mundungus had stolen the locket, and Harry ordered Kreacher to find Mundungus. However, before Mundungus could sell it, he had it taken away by Dolores Umbridge. To get to the Horcrux, Harry, Ron and Hermione broke into the Ministry of Magic and stole the locket from Umbridge. Later on, Ron destroyed it using the Sword of Gryffindor, but this was not easy, because like the ring, it had other forms of protection, this time going after the person's greatest fear. Nevertheless, Ron got the job done, killing the Horcrux that had been through more than any of the others. Now, 4 of the 8 Horcruxes were destroyed, and I'll hand it over to Morgan to explain the fate of the final Horcruxes.
Hufflepuff's cup was stolen from the Lestrange's Gringotts vault by Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and when Voldemort found this out, his and Harry's connection allowed Harry to see inside of Voldemort's mind and hear his thought process. Through this, Harry discovered that one of the remaining Horcruxes was at Hogwarts, and he discovered that Nagini was a Horcrux as well, confirming Dumbledore's theory. Voldemort, fearing the worst, went to make sure his Horcruxes were safe, and to his horror, he found that the Gaunt house and the cave were empty, and from then on, Voldemort decided to keep his snake close to him at all times.
Come, Nagini. I need to keep you safe.
After finding out that there was a Horcrux at Hogwarts, Harry, Ron, and Hermione made their way there, and while there, Ron and Hermione went down to the Chamber of Secrets, got a basilisk fang from the dead beast that Harry had killed years before, and used it to destroy Hufflepuff's cup, triggering the basilisk venom, which as we said is one of the few things that can destroy Horcruxes. After Harry talked to Helena Ravenclaw, she revealed that she had told Tom Riddle the whereabouts of the diadem, and Harry then remembered that he had seen the diadem in the Room of Requirement while he was hiding his potions book during his 6th year. When he got to it, however, he was met by Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle. In the movie, it was Goyle and Blaze, not Crabbe and Goyle, but this is based on the books, not the movies. During their showdown, Crabbe produced Fiend Fire, another one of the few things that can destroy a Horcrux, but it's very dangerous because it's so uncontrollable. In the film, it was Goyle who produced the Fiend Fire, but again, we're going by the books, not the movies. Crabbe lost control and burned the entire room down, including the Horcrux. In the film, Harry destroyed the Horcrux by stabbing the diadem with the basilisk fang, but I think that was done just because they didn't have time to explain Fiend Fire. In the book, after it had been exposed to Fiend Fire, Harry took the diadem, and the hot blackened Horcrux began to spit out a black blood-like substance, and then it began to vibrate violently and fell apart. There were only 2 Horcruxes left, Harry, which Voldemort still didn't know about, and Nagini. Voldemort actually unknowingly destroyed the Horcrux inside of Harry when he hit him with a killing curse in the Forbidden Forest. Nagini was the last Horcrux, and she was killed by Neville Longbottom as he used the Sword of Gryffindor, which again worked because it had basilisk venom in it. In the film, Neville killed Nagini during Harry and Voldemort's fight, but in the book, he killed it long before Harry and Voldemort's final showdown, and actually did it during a speech that restarted the battle. Either way, Neville finished off the final Horcrux, leaving Voldemort vulnerable and allowing Harry to finish the Dark Lord off once and for all. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and Dean, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me, Morgan. I hope you all enjoyed the video today and learned a lot from it. We had a lot of fun making it.
If you guys haven't checked out Dean's channel, it's linked below, HarryPotterFolklore. He makes some awesome Harry Potter videos and is without a doubt the best channel that is 100% Harry Potter content. You will not regret subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You can follow me on social media to see more of my personal life and see more of this little dude. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook for Movie Flame updates. And I want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons listed below. If you want to be featured in the next video, plus get a bunch of other rewards, become a patron today. Again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you press that like button and subscribe, and look out for more great videos on the way.